My name is Amelia, I'm 34 years old. And one early morning at 4 a.m., my life split into a before and an after. I still remember the sound. First I thought I was dreaming. Who knocks on a door at that hour? The apartment was dark, the street outside was silent, and my alarm was still 2 hours away from screaming at me to get up for work. Check my phone. 4:02 a.m. The knocking came again. Faster this time. My heart started racing. I live alone. No boyfriend, no roommate. Just me. So a knock at 4 a.m. didn't feel like someone needs sugar. Felt like a warning. I grabbed my robe, tiptoed to the door, and pressed my eye to the peephole. It was my neighbor, Mia, the quiet girl from 2 doors down. The one who always smiled politely in the hallway, carried too many grocery bags at once, and seemed almost invisible. We'd never had a real conversation beyond hi and good night. Now she looked like she'd seen a ghost. Her hair was messy, she was still in an oversized hoodie, and her hands were shaking as she kept glancing over her shoulder. Something in my chest tightened. I slowly unlocked the door and opened it just a little. Mia, it's really late. What's wrong? I whispered. She looked straight into my eyes. And in that moment, her expression scared me more than the knock. Amelia, she said, voice low but urgent. You can't go to work today. Blinked. What? Don't go to work. I mean it. Her voice cracked. Call in sick, lie, do anything. But don't leave this apartment for work today. I let out a nervous laugh. Is this some kind of joke? Did something happen? Are you okay? She shook her head, eyes filling with tears she refused to let fall. I can't explain everything now, she whispered, looking down the hallway as if someone might be listening. Just trust me, please. Don't go to work today. My mind was racing. Was there some threat? A gas leak? A crazy ex of hers? Did she know something about my office? Mia, I need more than that, I said. You're freaking me out. She swallowed hard. For a second, it looked like she was about to tell me everything. Then she just whispered, almost in pain. Please, Amelia. For your own good. Don't go to work. Just today. And, if you can, don't open the door to anyone from your job either. She stepped back like she had already said too much. I stared at her. Half of me wanted to shut the door and go back to sleep. The other half felt something crawling up my spine. Why? I asked again, desperate. Did something happen? Is someone after me? Her eyes met mine one last time. By this evening, you'll understand, she said softly. Just don't go. Then she walked away, hoodie pulled up, bare feet silently moving down the hallway, leaving me in my doorway with my heart pounding and 1,000 questions screaming in my head. I didn't know it yet. But that one warning, don't go to work today, just trust me, was about to save my entire life. I stood in the doorway for a long time after Mia left. The hallway looked normal again. Quiet. Me. Like nothing strange had happened at all. But I couldn't shake her face from my mind. The fear, the urgency, the way she kept checking the corridor like someone might be watching us. I closed the door slowly and slid the lock back into place. My apartment suddenly felt too small, too quiet. I checked the time again. 4:08 a.m. Great. Almost 2 hours until my alarm. And now there was no way I was falling back asleep. I wandered into the kitchen, made myself some tea, and tried to breathe. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe Mia had a nightmare. Maybe she was sleepwalking. Maybe. I didn't know. But here's the thing. I'm not the kind of person who just skips work. I worked as an analyst at a mid-sized financial consulting firm. Nothing glamorous, nothing dramatic. Just spreadsheets, reports, and late nights spent trying to impress bosses who barely remembered my name. Except for one person. Mark. My manager. Charming. Confident. Always one step ahead. He'd been the one to take me under his wing when I joined the company. The one who gave me extra projects. The one who told me over and over again, Amelia, if you play this right, you'll be running your own team in a year or two. I believed him. I worked weekends, skipped vacations, and told myself it was all for my future. That particular day, the day Mia knocked on my door, was supposed to be important. We had a major client meeting scheduled. A big presentation. My presentation, actually. I'd spent weeks preparing the data, building charts, editing slides until my eyes blurred. If there was one day I couldn't miss work, it was this one. And yet, here I was, drinking tea at 4:15 a.m., replaying Mia's words in my mind like a broken record. You can't go to work today. Don't open the door to anyone from your job. By this evening you'll understand. I grabbed my phone and opened my messages. Nothing unusual. No texts from my boss. No emails from the office. No emergency alerts. The world looked normal on the screen. So why didn't I feel normal? I thought about my neighbors. I barely knew any of them. City life is like that. You live 5 meters away from people whose names you never learn. Except Mia. I knew almost nothing about her, but I'd noticed little things. She always left for work early before me. She came home late. She wore neutral clothes, kept her hair tied back, carried a laptop bag that looked too heavy. And sometimes when I passed her in the hall, I saw the exhaustion in her eyes. The kind that came from more than just lack of sleep. The kind that comes from carrying a secret. I set my mug down and rubbed my temples. Okay, Amelia, I told myself. Be logical. You're an analyst. You don't make decisions based on spooky hallway visits. But fear doesn't care about logic, does it? I walked to my bedroom, looked at my neatly ironed work clothes hanging over the chair. The blazer I had picked for the big meeting. Heels. The folder with my printed notes. I imagined myself sitting in that conference room, presenting my slides to our client, my boss nodding proudly. I'd waited months for this. Then I imagined Mia's face again. Pale, urgent, desperate. I felt a cold shiver run over my skin. What could possibly be waiting for me at the office that would make a neighbor knock on my door at 4 a.m. and tell me not to go? I didn't know it yet, but the answer was trap. And I was supposed to be the one walking straight into it. When my alarm finally rang at 6 a.m., I was already awake, lying on my back, staring at the ceiling. It felt like I had spent the last 2 hours arguing with myself. You can't just not show up, Amelia. This is your career. But what if Mia's right? Right about what? She didn't even tell you anything specific. She was terrified. People don't fake that kind of fear. You're gonna look crazy if you call in sick today. Better crazy than something worse. The alarm kept buzzing until I turned it off. I sat up slowly. In that moment, I realized something I didn't want to admit. I was scared. Not of being late. Not of losing the client. Not of disappointing my boss. I was scared of going. Of walking into that office as if it was just another day, when something in my gut screamed, don't. I picked up my phone and stared at the screen, thumb hovering over Mark's name. What could I even say? Hey, sorry, my mysterious neighbor told me not to go to work today, so I'm gonna follow her advice. Instead I dialed and waited. He picked up on the second ring. Amelia. Everything okay? His voice was sharp, businesslike. No good morning, no warmth. Just pressure. I swallowed. Hey, Mark. I'm really not feeling well. I was up all night. I think I've got a fever or something. I don't think I can make it in today. There was a pause. A fever, he repeated like he didn't quite believe me. You sure this can't wait until after the meeting? Guilt stabbed me in the chest. The meeting, my big chance, and I was lying. I'm really sorry, I said. I feel awful. I don't want to mess things up in front of the client. Another pause. I could almost hear him thinking. Fine, he said eventually, voice clipped. I'll handle the presentation. Send me the final version of the deck. And Amelia, we're going to talk about this later. I understand, I whispered. When the call ended, my hands were shaking. I sent him the file. My throat felt tight. I wanted to cry. From relief, from anxiety, from the feeling that I had just ruined my career over a warning that might not even mean anything. I spent the next few hours in a strange limbo. I made breakfast and barely tasted it. I tried to watch something on TV, but nothing held my attention. I kept pacing from the living room to the kitchen, from the kitchen to the hallway, listening for any sound over the usual noise of pipes and distant traffic. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart jumped. 11:07 a.m. Email from HR about some regular policy update. 11:43 a.m. Spam call. 12:22 p.m. Notification from a food delivery app. Nothing from my office. No update from Mark about how the meeting went. Nothing from Mia. By early afternoon, my anxiety was through the roof. I walked to my door and put my ear against it, listening to the hallway. Silence. I thought about going to knock on Mia's door, demanding an explanation. But what if she wasn't home? What if she refused to talk? What if this whole thing was some misunderstanding, and I'd look ridiculous? Time dragged. Around 3 p.m., I finally sat down with my laptop and tried to distract myself by going over old files. That's when something popped up on my screen. A news alert. Breaking news from a local site. I clicked it without thinking. And there it was. The headline made my blood run cold. Police raid local financial firm in fraud investigation. Several employees detained. Below the headline was a photo of my office building. My office building. The article said police had entered the premises that morning with a warrant. They had seized computers, documents, servers. Several employees had been taken in for questioning, possibly detention, as part of a large-scale investigation into financial misconduct and money laundering. My vision blurred. I read the name of the company again and again, as if maybe I had misunderstood. But no. It was my company. My floor. My team. I scrolled further, heart pounding so hard I could hear it. Witnesses said it had happened around 10 a.m. The exact time I would have been there. The exact time I would have been setting up the projector for my presentation. I stared at the screen, my mouth dry. If Mia hadn't come to my door at 4 a.m., I would have been standing right there when the police walked in. Part of me thought, okay, but you're innocent. You have nothing to hide. But another part, a deeper, darker part, whispered, then why did someone not want you there? Why did they want you to stay away? I didn't know it yet, but that day wasn't about bad luck or random timing. It was about a carefully designed plan. And I was supposed to be the one sitting in handcuffs. For a long time I just sat there staring at the article. Every new paragraph made my skin crawl. Anonymous sources suggest that some employees may have been used as fronts for illegal transactions. The investigation focuses on manipulated reports and suspicious transfers hidden in client accounts. Authorities are particularly interested in the work of junior analysts whose credentials were used repeatedly. Junior analyst. That was me. I felt like the floor had disappeared under my feet. My phone began to ring. Private number. I stared at it, heart in my throat. Finally I picked up. Hello. Amelia. It's Claire from HR. Her voice was strained, like she'd aged 10 years since yesterday. Where are you? I'm at home. I called in sick, remember? Yes. Right. She cleared her throat. Listen. We need to talk. The police are asking questions. There are some irregularities in the reports that you handled. Some transfers done under your login. My chest tightened. That's impossible, I said. I follow protocol. I don't approve anything without authorization. You know that. Yes, well, they want to see you. They'll probably want to come by to take your statement and your laptop. Froze. They're coming here. I whispered. Yes. 2 officers will be stopping by. Her tone was formal, distant. Just cooperate. I'm sure this can all be cleared up. She hung up before I could say anything else. My mind was spinning. Transfers done under my login. They had to be. But then I remembered the times when Mark had come to my desk. Hey Amelia, I'm in a rush. Can you just log in and push this through? I'll explain later. Amelia, just leave your computer on while you're in the meeting. I need to double-check something on those numbers. Can you send me your password real quick? He needs to test something. My stomach twisted. I had trusted him. Never imagined he'd use that trust against me. And now, apparently, my name was all over transactions I didn't even remember touching. I stood up suddenly. I needed answers. I needed to talk to the one person who had been right so far. Mia. I stepped into the hallway, my pulse thudding in my ears, and walked down to her door. I hesitated for only a second before knocking. No answer. I knocked again, harder this time. Mia, it's Amelia. Please open up. I need to talk to you. Silence. Just as I was about to give up, the door opened a crack, held in place by the chain lock. One of her eyes peeked out. Amelia, you shouldn't be out here, she said softly. I need to know what's going on, I said, my voice shaking. You came to my door at 4 in the morning and told me not to go to work. Now my office is all over the news, and HR just told me the police are coming for me. What do you know? She bit her lip, then slowly closed the door, unlatched the chain, and opened it properly. Come in, she whispered. Her apartment was dimly lit, a laptop open on the table, several documents spread out beside it. For a moment I felt like I had walked into a movie scene, the hacker neighbor, the secret investigation, the conspiracy board. Except this was real. Mia closed the door behind us and took a deep breath. I was hoping it wouldn't go this far, she said. But I guess I don't have a choice now. I folded my arms, trying to steady myself. Start from the beginning. She nodded. I work in cybersecurity, she said. External audits. Companies hire us to check their systems, look for vulnerabilities, and sometimes to see if there's anything they don't know about going on inside their networks. And my company was one of them. Yes. She nodded again. I've been working quietly on an audit of your firm's digital infrastructure for the past 3 months. Remote access, log analysis, transaction tracing. I didn't know you worked there when I took the assignment. I only realized it when I saw the building name in the contract, and then, when I saw your company email on the internal directory. My head was spinning. You knew, I whispered. For 3 months. I didn't know everything, she said quickly. At first, it looked like normal minor issues. But then I started seeing something strange. She walked over to her laptop and turned it toward me. Rows of data filled the screen. Name. ID. This, she said quietly, pointing at a series of logs, is your account activity. I don't recognize half of that, I said, staring. I don't work those hours. I don't remember approving those transfers. Exactly, she replied. At first, I thought your account was compromised by someone external. But the pattern was too specific. It wasn't random. Whoever was doing this knew exactly which accounts to touch, which limits not to exceed, which times to avoid. Her eyes met mine. This wasn't an outsider, she said. This was someone inside your office. Someone using your access. My throat felt tight. Mark, I whispered. She didn't say anything. But why warn me? Asked. Why not go straight to the police? I did, she said. But investigations take time. They needed more concrete evidence. They were planning the raid. They didn't tell me exactly when it would happen, but based on system activity and the warrant timeline, I knew it was going to be soon. When I saw how much of it was tied to your login, I realized something. She sat down, her voice softer now. They're not just using you. They're framing you. The words hit me like ice water. Framing me. For the last wave of transactions, she continued, the system logs show your account at the center. If things went the way they wanted, the police would walk in and see your credentials attached to most suspicious transfers. Your manager would say something like, I trusted her, she handled those operations. Char would confirm you had access. And you. She didn't finish. I saw the picture clearly now. Me in a small room under bright lights, being questioned for hours about money I'd never seen. You were supposed to be the perfect scapegoat, she said. Hardworking, loyal, never asking too many questions. Tears burned the back of my eyes. I'm sorry I didn't warn you sooner, Mia added. But I needed proof. And last night, I saw one more set of logs scheduled. Big ones. All routed through your ID. I knew they would pull the trigger today. That's why I came. I sank into the chair opposite her. Why help me? Asked, voice barely audible. You could have just done your job and stayed out of it. She looked at me for a long moment. Because I've seen this before, she said quietly. Good people destroyed to protect the real criminals. I promised myself that if I ever saw it coming in time, I wouldn't stay silent again. My phone buzzed on the table. I glanced at it. Unknown number. The police, Mia said calmly. They're coming to talk to you. My hands were trembling now. What do I do? She took a deep breath. If they're expecting a scared, confused girl who has no idea what's going on, let's disappoint them, she said. It's time to turn their little trap around. I had never thought of myself as someone who would be in the middle of a criminal investigation, let alone plotting how to turn it against the people who had betrayed me. And yet here I was, sitting at my neighbor's table, surrounded by data logs, while she calmly laid out a plan. We don't lie, Mia said. We don't hide. That will only make you look guilty. But we also don't walk into this blind. She opened a folder and pulled out printed pages. These, she said, are the logs I've collected. Sessions from your account at hours when you weren't supposed to be working. IP address traces from internal workstations. Time stamps that overlap with security camera schedules in your office building. I frowned. Cameras? Yes. Your office has them in the hallway outside your floor, right? Near the elevators. Yeah, I said slowly. And near the break room. Good. That means we can cross-check. She started marking times with a pen. If your account shows activity at 8:43 p.m., but the cameras show you badging out at 6:10 p.m. and never coming back, then whoever used your account did it from inside after you left. But how? Either they had your password or they used your unlocked computer, she finished. I thought of all the times Mark had hovered over my desk, all the times I'd left my computer on to help. My stomach twisted. Mia, this is a lot of information, I said. Will the police even listen to me? Or will they just see me as some desperate employee trying to blame her boss? She gave me a small, determined smile. That's why we're not just going to talk to them, she said. We're going to show them something they can't ignore. She opened her laptop again. You're going to cooperate fully, she continued. You'll answer their questions calmly. You'll tell them exactly what you knew and what you didn't. And when they ask about your access, you'll say you want to show them something. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. I'm preparing a simple visual trace of the transactions, she explained. Colored. Easy to follow. With your ID in one color, and the overlapping internal access in another. We'll print it. When they see the pattern, they'll realize this isn't some panic story you invented in an hour. You're kind of scary, I said, half laughing through my stress. People usually ignore me, she said with a shrug. I've learned to make that useful. My phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. I didn't need to answer to know what it meant. They're on their way, Mia said. She had a small screen open showing a network of city traffic cameras. About 10 minutes. Wait, I said, staring. You can see. Focus, Amelia. She handed me a stack of paper. This is everything we're going to give them today. Not all of my data, just enough to prove there's more here than a simple case of employee gone rogue. My heart pounded. And Mark? Yes. What happens to him? If the police do their job, she said, they'll start looking at who had motive and opportunity to use your credentials. That will lead them straight to him and whoever he's working with. He paused. But that's only half the revenge, she added. Half. I repeated. Legal justice is slow, Mia said. And honestly, sometimes it doesn't hit as hard as it should. But there's another kind of justice too. Truth. Public truth. I frowned. I don't want my name in the news. Not yours, she said. His. She pulled up another window, a draft email. To an investigative journalist I've worked with before. She doesn't go public without checking every fact twice. If we share the data trail and the story, A mid-level manager using his young employee as a front, planning to let her take the fall. Believe me, people will pay attention. I swallowed. That's a lot, I said. Are you sure this is safe? She looked me straight in the eyes. Amelia, they were willing to let you go down for this, she said. They built an entire scheme around your name. The safest thing you can do now is shine as much light as possible on all of it. The more people watching, the harder it is for them to twist the story. I realized something then. Mia wasn't just saving me. She was angry. Quietly, deeply angry. Not in a loud, dramatic way, but in the way of someone who had seen this kind of injustice one too many times. We went back to my apartment, carrying the printed reports and the USB drive with the visual trace. Remember, she said as we walked down the hall, you're not helpless. You're not a victim. You're a key witness with evidence. I took a deep breath. What if they arrest me anyway? Yes. Then I'll be right behind them, sending everything I have to the authorities and the press, she said calmly. You're not alone in this. We reached my door. I unlocked it and we stepped inside. A few minutes later there was a knock. Not frantic like Mia's at 4 a.m. Firm, official. I opened the door to see two officers. Badges visible, serious expressions. Ms. Amelia Miller. One of them asked. Yes. We'd like to ask you some questions about your role at your company. May we come in? I stepped aside. As they entered, Mia gave me a slight nod from where she sat at the table, the documents neatly stacked. It was time to see whether the people who had planned to use my name as a shield were finally going to face the consequences. It was time to turn their perfect little story into their worst nightmare. The officers introduced themselves as Detective Harris and Detective Cole. They were polite but distant, their notepads ready, eyes scanning the room like they were used to walking into lies. Let's start from the beginning, Detective Harris said, sitting across from me. How long have you worked at your firm? Almost 4 years, I replied. And your position? Junior analyst. I handle data reports, financial models, and sometimes approve internal transfers. Under authorization. I made sure to add that last part. He scribbled something down. And you didn't go into work today? No, I said. I called in sick around 6 this morning. Convenient timing, Detective Cole muttered. I felt my chest tighten, but Mia's words echoed in my head. You're not helpless. You're a key witness. Actually, I said calmly. Inconvenient. Today was important for my career. I had a major presentation scheduled. I've been preparing it for weeks. They exchanged a glance. What made you decide not to go? Harris asked. I hesitated for a moment. I couldn't tell them about a feeling or make it sound mystical. Someone I trust warned me something was wrong, I said carefully. They told me not to go. I didn't know why until I saw the news. Someone. Cole raised an eyebrow. Who? My neighbor Mia, I said. She's here. Their eyes shifted to her. Mia gave a small nod. And why would your neighbor know anything about your company's internal issues? Harris asked. Mia folded her hands calmly. Because your department hired my firm to audit them, she said. I'm the cybersecurity specialist assigned to their case. That finally made them pause. You're working with us? Cole asked, surprise flashing across his face. Indirectly, Mia answered. I've been quietly providing preliminary findings to your financial crimes division. You can verify that with your supervisor. Harris's phone buzzed. He checked it, frowned, and his posture shifted. Whatever he just read confirmed at least part of what she said. All right, he said slowly. Let's keep going. They turned back to me. We found several suspicious transfers done under your credentials, Harris continued. Large sums routed through client accounts, disguised as consulting fees. Do you deny authorizing these? Yes, I said firmly. I do. I never approved anything without clear instructions. And there are transfers in there I've never even seen before. Took a breath. I'd like to show you something, I added. If that's okay. Cole looked almost annoyed, but Harris gestured for me to continue. Mia slid the stack of printouts forward. "These are logs from the system," she said. "Your investigation team has access to these, but I've compiled them in a way that might be easier to follow." She spread out the pages, lines of data color-coded. "These blue entries are Amelia's actual working hours," she explained. "They match her badge-in and badge-out times from building security." She pointed to another column. "These red entries are when her credentials were used for the suspicious transfers." The red blocks floated in the white space between the blue working hours. Evenings, late nights, weekends. Times when I was at home watching TV or already in bed. Harris leaned forward. Cole's pen stopped moving. "And these," Mia continued, circling some entries in green, "are IP addresses from internal workstations. They don't match Amelia's usual terminal. But I traced them to a different device on the same floor." "Whose device?" Harris asked. Mia pulled out one more sheet, a mapping of workstation IDs. "That one," she said quietly, tapping the page, "belongs to Mark Thompson, her manager." Silence settled over the room. I watched their faces carefully. Cole flipped through the pages, his earlier skepticism replaced with something else. Focus, maybe. Calculation. "Why didn't we see this in our initial sweep?" he muttered. "Because it's buried under layers of normal activity," Mia said. "Whoever did this was smart. They never went over certain thresholds. They spread transactions out. They made it look like routine internal adjustments. If you're only looking for big spikes, you'll miss it." Harris looked back at me. "Did your manager have access to your computer?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "Many times. He often asked me to leave my session open so he could double-check numbers. Once, he even asked me to send him my password because IT was testing something." I swallowed. "I trusted him," I added quietly. "I thought he was helping my career." A bitter silence filled the room. "We'll need copies of all this," Harris said to Mia. "You'll have them," she replied. "And your laptop, Ms. Miller," Cole said. "We'll need to take that in as well." "Standard procedure." He nodded. "I understand. I have nothing to hide." As they were packing up, Harris's phone buzzed again. He glanced at it, then looked at me. "Your manager is already in custody," he said. "We brought in several people from your floor for questioning. Mr. Thompson has been less than cooperative." A strange feeling washed over me. Not quite joy, not simple relief. Something heavier. Darker. "What's going to happen to him?" I asked. "That depends on what we find," Harris said. "But this," he held up the logs, "changes the picture." Before they left, Harris paused at the door. "Ms. Miller," he said, "if what this shows holds up, then someone tried very hard to make you look like the mastermind behind all of this." I nodded, my throat tight. "We'll be in touch," he added. When the door closed behind them, my legs almost gave out. I sank onto the couch, shaking. Mia sat down across from me. "It's not over yet," she said. "They still have to build their case. But they're not looking at you the same way anymore." "And Mark?" I asked. "He really thought he could just throw me under the bus and walk away clean." "He was never afraid of you," Mia said quietly. "People like him never are. They don't see you as a threat. That's why they picked you." I looked at her, feeling something shift inside me, a mix of anger, sadness, and a strange new strength. What if they try to spin this? I asked. What if he says I gave him my password willingly, that we were partners in this? Mia's eyes hardened. "That's why I sent the first bundle of evidence to the journalist 10 minutes ago," she said. "With a note. Follow the manager, not the scapegoat." I stared at her. "You already." "I told you," she replied calmly. "We're not playing defense. We're telling the story before they twist it." In the days that followed, everything moved both too fast and painfully slow. The raid made bigger headlines. New articles appeared, about corruption, internal fraud, whistleblower audits. My name never showed up. But Mark's did. Mid-level manager at financial firm under investigation for fraud scheme involving junior staff IDs. Everyone at the office would know who that junior staff was. But the world outside didn't. And that was enough for me. For the first time, the story wasn't about some careless employee. It was about the kind of person who thinks they can ruin someone else's life and walk away smiling. This time, that person was sitting in an interrogation room while the rest of us watched. This time the story flipped. It was early evening when I finally sat alone again, in the same living room where I had stared at the news that afternoon. The sky outside my window was turning orange. The city lights were starting to come on. People were returning from work, tired, unaware that my entire world had just been ripped apart and stitched back together in a new shape. My phone buzzed. It was Claire from HR. "Amelia," she said, her voice softer than before. "I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. That caught me off guard." "Sorry," I repeated. "We made assumptions," she said. "When we saw your name in the logs, we thought." Well, you know what we thought. But the detectives came back. They showed us the trace your neighbor prepared. I glanced at Mia's door in my mind. "It's clear now that you were being used," Claire continued. "The firm will cooperate fully with the investigation. And of course we'll be clearing your file of any internal suspicion. You won't be facing any disciplinary action from us." I let out a shaky laugh. "I'm not coming back," I said quietly. She hesitated. "I understand," she said. "But for what it's worth, some of us should have seen the red flags. We didn't. I hope you'll find a place that deserves you." After we hung up, I sat in silence for a long time. I thought about the last 4 years, the late nights, the pressure, the way I'd bent over backward to prove myself to people who had no problem offering me up as a shield the moment things got dangerous. Thought about Mark, his smiles, his compliments, his "you're like family here, Amelia." And I thought about Mia, the neighbor I barely spoke to, the quiet girl in the hallway who had knocked on my door at 4 a.m. And in doing so, kept my life from being destroyed. A knock pulled me out of my thoughts. This time not frantic, just gentle. I opened the door to find Mia standing there again, hands in the pockets of her hoodie, looking a little less haunted than she had the night before. "Hey," she said. "Hey," I replied. "Want to come in?" She nodded, and we sat at the table, much more relaxed than earlier. "How are you holding up?" she asked. "I don't know yet," I admitted. "It feels like I've woken up from a really long dream. Or maybe I've been asleep this whole time and only just woke up today." She nodded like she understood that more than she let on. "The detectives will still follow up," she said. "There'll be more questions. Maybe even a hearing if the case gets big." "I'll tell them everything," I said. "I won't protect him." "Good," she replied. "That's the bravest thing you can do now." We sat in comfortable silence for a moment. "Why did you become this?" "Yes. Someone who digs into dangerous things for a living." She smiled faintly. "Because when I was younger," she said, "someone like Mark almost ruined my family. They blamed my dad for numbers he didn't touch. He didn't know how to prove his innocence. No one listened. We lost everything. And the real culprit. He got a promotion." I felt a lump in my throat. "I couldn't do anything back then," she continued. "But I can now." "Oh, I do." We looked at each other with a new understanding. "You know," I said slowly, "if you hadn't knocked on my door, I'd probably be in a cell right now, wondering what went wrong." "If you hadn't believed me," she replied, "you'd be in a cell. A lot of people would have laughed and gone to work." "I almost did," I admitted. "I thought I was ruining my career by staying home." She gave a small, knowing smile. "Funny," she said. "By not going to work, you saved it." Later that night after Mia left, I stood by my window and watched the city. For the first time in a long time I had no idea what tomorrow would look like. No job to go to. No endless reports. No false promises. And somehow that didn't feel like failure. Felt like freedom. I picked up my phone and opened a blank note. "Things I want from my next job," I typed. A boss who earns my trust, not demands it. Clear boundaries. A place where I'm not invisible until they need someone to blame. I added one more line. People like Mia on my side. By the time the sky turned dark, one thing was clear. I had lost a job. But I had gained something much more valuable. I had learned exactly who I was when everything comfortable was stripped away. And I had learned who my real enemy was. Not just one crooked manager, but the habit of doubting myself when my gut screamed that something was wrong. That evening, at last, I understood why my neighbor had knocked on my door at 4 a.m. She didn't just save me from going to work. She saved me from going back to a life built on lies. Sometimes I replay that night in my head. The darkness, the silence, the sudden knocking that pulled me out of sleep and into a nightmare I didn't know I was living. If you had asked me a year ago what the worst kind of betrayal was, I would have said something simple. A cheating partner, a lying friend, a broken promise. Now I know better. The worst betrayal is when someone looks at your kindness, your trust, your hard work, and sees not a human being but a shield. A disposable wall they can hide behind when everything collapses. My manager didn't just put my name on wrong numbers. He gambled with my entire life, my future, my freedom, and fully expected me to quietly take the fall. That's not just betrayal. That's dehumanization. But this story isn't just about him. It's about the strange, quiet girl who lived 2 doors down. The one nobody really noticed. The one who saw the trap before I did. Mia reminded me of something important. Danger doesn't always come with loud warnings and dramatic music. Sometimes it comes in the form of a charming boss with friendly smiles and great opportunities. And sometimes protection comes as a soft knock at 4 a.m. and a trembling voice saying, "Just trust me." If there's one thing I want anyone listening to my story to take away, it's this. Listen when something in your gut says, "This doesn't feel right." Pay attention to the quiet people. They often see what others miss. Never ever hand over pieces of your identity, your passwords, your signatures, your blind trust, to someone who hasn't truly earned it. And if you find out someone has been using your name to protect themselves, don't stay silent. Revenge doesn't always look like dramatic confrontations or ruined lives. Sometimes revenge is simply the truth, spoken clearly and loudly enough that the lies can't breathe anymore. Mark wanted a story where he walked away clean, and I disappeared into a file labeled guilty. Instead, he's the one sitting alone in rooms full of questions. He's the one whose name shows up in headlines, job blacklists, investigation reports. And me. I'm the one telling the story. So if you ever find yourself in a situation where everything looks normal, but a small part of you whispers, "Something's wrong here," don't ignore it. Don't let anyone convince you that your instincts are overreactions. Because one early morning, my neighbor knocked at 4 a.m. and said, "Don't go to work today. Just trust me." And by evening, when I saw my office on the news and my name in the system logs, I finally understood. She wasn't just telling me not to go to work. She was telling me, "Don't walk into the story they've written for you. Write your own instead." Was the real revenge.